trailing off at the end, actually, off this new album called Abbey Road, which is where they record all their stuff in a studio in Abbey Road, you see, just north of London. And I went along there with my tape recorder, and I opened the door, and I say, well, at the moment, what are you devoting energy to, Johnny?
At the moment, I'm devoting most of my energy to the Beatles LP, forthcoming.
Have you decided a title for it? Yeah.
Yes, Abbey Road, it is called.
Is it?
Abbey Road, that's Beatles.
Paul, first of all, congratulations on another super LP from the Beatles.
I personally like it better than the last one that we did,
You do?
the double album, yeah. So I like the songs a bit better. I think it's more of an LP. It's very good.
What were your own favourite numbers? Which were you particularly satisfied yourself on this LP? Which ones stand out?
Well, I like Come Together. That's a great one, which is John's one.
Yeah.
I like Something, George writes. I think it's, for me, I think it's the best he's written. And I like Because on the second side.
Why did you use the lyric "Turn Me On" and "Blow My Mind" in that particular song? I rather felt that sounded a bit passé in 1969 because it's been used so much in the past.
Yes, well, they were John's lyrics. But I think, you know, if they'd have been straight, yeah, so I'm not taking any blame, but no. If they'd been used just straight, if it had been "You turn me on, you blow my mind," okay, that would have been passé. But to say that because the world is round, it turns me on, it's great. You know?
Yes,
it's
I
like,
see.
well, it's not fantastic, but it's
No.
it's as good as
That's
good enough for me, you know.
Yeah,
and because the wind is high, it blows my mind.
Yeah.
You know, it's much better than "You blow my mind, baby, honey bunch." I like all the others. You know, I think there's not a bad track on it, but my favourites are those ones, and then the long one.
Oh yeah.
The whole of the long one,
Yeah.
the whole of the end bit. I think that works good.
I think a lot of people might be surprised that you sort of dared to take Golden Slumbers, the well-known lullaby, and give it a new variation. I enjoyed it very much, but what made you decide to do that? Because the Beatles have never done that before, have they?
No.
Taken another tune or lyrics?
No. Well, I'll tell you, I was just playing the piano in Liverpool, my dad's house, and my sister Ruth's piano book, she was learning piano, and you know those sort of, do you ken John Peel?
Yeah.
And Golden Slumbers and your old
Yes,
favourites,
all the-
was up on the thing, you know, this stand, you know, there's a little book with all those words in it and stuff. So I was just flicking through it and I came to Golden Slumbers, you know. So I just started, because I can't read music, so I didn't know the tune. I can't remember the old tune, you know. So I started just playing my tune to it. And then I liked the words, so I just kept that, you know, and then it fitted with another bit of song I had, which is the verse in between it, so I just made that into a song. It just happened because I was reading her book.
And what about the reference to the Queen? What made you put that on the LP? That's caused a lot of surprises. Very nice, but it was, you know, a lot of people didn't know it was there.
I saw your column in the daily newspaper.
I wish I could have got a hold of you.
That was just, I don't know, you know, I was in Scotland and I was just writing this little tune. You know, I can never tell, like, how tunes come out. I just wrote it as a joke, you know. I wrote this tune and it happened to start off, Her Majesty's a pretty nice girl. She doesn't have a lot to say. So I just wrote those little, you know, I wrote a few more lines with it. And just as a little sort of joke tune, you know. Her Majesty, I thought of it as the Queen, you know, just because I'd think of that as Her Majesty.
Well,
it was around about the time the royal family was on telly too.
Yes.
You know, that big film about them. You know, I mean, you could refer, like they refer to a girl as... you know, lady or girl or, you know, like Lady Madonna or just some sort of name, you know, to call a girl. It could be that too, you know, like Her Majesty, you know, worshipping your girlfriend or your wife.
Yes, I see. So it's not to be taken too seriously.
Not really, you know, you can if you like.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yes. What about the image of the Beatles? Now, there's no doubt that the older generation who have been very for you, a lot of them have sort of started saying things like, oh, they're not like they used to be, what are they doing? You know, all this hair and they're not
It's
so
true, you know.
snappily dressed. Does this disturb you?
No.
That you might lose some of your old...
See, the thing is, you grow up, you know, everyone grows up, and it is always a great pity to see a baby turn into an adult. Because it's always more nicer when they're a baby and they go goo-goo and they do everything you want, you know, it's lovely. And in a certain period in our career, we did, you know, we were sort of particularly nice. You know, we had like a very all-round appeal. It wasn't put on, you know, we were more like that, you know. But as we've grown up, you become more individual. And so, like, for instance, if you don't want a press interview, you know, like these days we don't have to say yes. We're more true to ourselves these days. And it obviously doesn't please some people, but I think you find like a lot of other people like us for it. You know, I tell you what happened. Once in the old days, we used to wear leather jackets. We used to wear leather suits a lot. And we changed. Brian said, look, lads, smarten up a bit, you know, get yourselves suits. So we got suits and ties and stuff, and we went on like that. We gained a whole new audience and lost all the people who wanted us in leather.
Oh, I see.
See, so this is happening again, you know. I think it always will happen that, where we'll lose all the people who wanted us to be just 4 nice, clean-cut lads, and who didn't want us to grow beards.
Yes.
And we'll gain all the people who don't care whether we got beards or what, you know, because they're out for us,
Yes.
not for what we look like or how nicely we speak, you know.
Yes.
Just they're out for us being truthful to ourselves. That's what they're interested in.
How much interest and how much control do you have over Apple now that you have a new manager in Mr. Klein?
Are you
like
the
a
4 of us have? No, I don't like doing the business bit that much, but you can't avoid it. See, the thing is, like, we were once a band, just a band, but then because we were successful, you can't help it being successful. You know, money comes in. You know, you can't help that again. When money comes in, income tax has to be paid. So you can't really help just turning into a businessman because someone says to you, you know, well, where's your income tax, mate? And you say, well, I better get on to someone, you know, I hope I've got a bit to pay you and stuff. So you've got to get all that together, you know. So it's just force of circumstance, you know, you can't help it.
Paul, what about the future of the Beatles? I happen to know that the organisers of the Isle of Wight Pop Festival are going to ask you and the rest of the Beatles if you will top the bill next year at the Isle of Wight. Now, what's your reaction to a thing like that? Are you likely to go back on stage and perhaps do a show like that?
I don't know, you know.
Appeal?
I don't think so. For me, you see, what happened was when we played the Cavern, when we played the really early days, we really enjoyed performing, you know, and that was the fun, was to perform. But since then, our things got more into records and songwriting, mainly because if you start to perform, after, say, the Cavern, you start to perform at, like, Peterborough Empire, Glasgow Empire, Liverpool Empire, you get an act. And, like, we never used to really vary the act. Occasionally we put a new song in. But you get very stereotyped, you know, and we just got an act. I mean, once you knew the act, there wasn't really much more fun in it, you know, except if anything went wrong or anything went particularly right, you know, but it was normally just, here we go again. So for us, we've done all that you can do in performing. We can get bigger audiences, we can get bigger in quantity, but in quality of performance, it's difficult. You know, I personally, if we were going to do anything, prefer to just go right back to a small club.
You would?
Just have 50 people in and sing to them, you know, and have a bit of a sing-song. I'd get more fun from that.
You would. And what about John? He seems to be
John loves
to
it,
go
yeah.
back and perform. Isn't this going to cause a sort of division in the group?
No, no.
I mean,
no, the thing is, John wants to do that, you know, and I think it's great, you know. I mean, see, I've just said I don't particularly like the idea of playing to those many people, but I'd hate to stop him doing it.
Yes.
I mean, he loves it. He did this Toronto thing and had a really great time. So I'd be the last person to say, well, you know, don't do it because you've got to just do it with the Beatles or stuff. I think it's a great idea anyway. You know?
What do you do about decisions like that? Do you have meetings still and talk things over, or do you just go your separate ways and get together when it comes around to recording?
Yeah,
are the Beatles still as much in contact with each other as they were?
We're not as much in contact with each other as we were when we were on the road every day, in the same van, in the same car, same dressing room. Obviously, we're not in that kind of contact. But I think Abbey Road shows that we're in contact. It's not as though it's like a made-up album. We're playing all the way through it, and we play together. So, I mean, we're in contact. We have plenty of meetings. In fact, I've got one any second now, David. We used to get together once a year and say, OK, we'll go to Japan, New York, so-and-so this year, because we all fancy it. We've never been before. So, these days, because we aren't performing, we don't have to do that. But we do get together and say, we'll do an album then, we'll do an album then, and we'll do an album then. because that's mainly what we do.
What about another Beatles picture?
We've done a film which is like very different from anything we've done. Actually, we haven't done it. The film was made around about the time we were making Get Back. They did a film here in Apple, out in Twickenham, all over the place, and it's like a documentary. You know, it's like a film, say, of a painter, and he comes in and sets up a canvas, puts one brush mark on, then eventually you see him finish the painting, and it's all that he goes through to get to the painting. Well, with us, it's just somebody walk in, twang G and C and say, this is how the song goes, and then eventually you see us finish the record. It's like, it's the stages. It's a good film. It's interesting, you know.
Yes. What do you feel is left for you to do? What are the Beatles going to be doing when they're 40? Do you think you'll be
I've no idea,
retired?
You know. I don't know, you know, I've never known. I didn't know that when we were playing at the Cavern that we'd be on the Royal Variety performance. And after that, all the papers said, well, what's left for them, you know? So then we went to America. They said, what's left for them then, you know? Then we got into making better albums and stuff, you know? I mean, I just don't know what's going to happen. It'll be all right, though. I don't see how we can retire. You know, it's like Bridget Bardot and Greta Garbo and all. They try to retire. You can't, because you're always there. I started to tell him off about the Two Virgins cover, just because it shocked me as much as it shocked him, as much as it shocked anyone. And I just said, well, you know, you're going to get in trouble doing that. And he said, well, I don't mind. I'd rather do it and get into trouble if I get into trouble. He said, I don't even think I will. So I eventually came round to it. And I said, well, don't get yourself in trouble, son. Go ahead. I mean, I think it's a good thing now. Silly of me to try and protect John. He knows what's going on.
From yourself, when we've been so used to Lennon-McCartney compositions, and of course, you know, people have been commenting this week about Something and Here Comes the Sun, which are your own compositions. How did this all happen? It's so unusual for you to contribute so much to an LP.
Well, not really.
By the Beatles.
I mean, the last album we did had 4 songs of mine on, and you know, I thought they were all right. So, you know, I thought these Something and Here Comes the Sun was okay, probably maybe a bit more commercial, but as songs, not much better than the songs on the last album. But I've been writing for a couple of years now, and there's been lots of songs I've written which I haven't actually got round to recording. So, you know, in my own mind, I don't see what the fuss is, because I've heard these songs before and I wrote them, you know, quite a while back. And it's really nice that people like the songs, but
you don't look upon yourself as a late developer as regards songwriting then, because it's sort of kind of hit everyone that way, you know.
You know, late, early, you know, what's late and what's early.
But you hadn't really got the reputation
no,
as yet as
I mean,
a
I
songwriter, had you?
I wasn't Lennon or I wasn't McCartney. And, you know, I was me. And the only reason I started to write songs was because I thought, well, if they can write them, I can write them. You know, because really, everybody can write songs if they want to. If they have a desire to, and if they have sort of some musical knowledge and background, and then it's by writing them, the same as writing books or writing articles or painting, the more you do it, the better, or the more you can understand how to do it. And I used to just write songs, I still do. I just write a song and it just comes out however it wants to. And some of them are catchy songs, like Here Comes the Sun, and some of them aren't, you know, but to me there's just songs and I just write them, and some will be considered as good by maybe the masses and some won't, but to me they're just songs, things that are there that have to be got out.
What inspired Something, for example?
Maybe Patty, probably.
Really?
I think I wrote it at the time when we were making the last double album, and it's just the first line, Something in the Way She Moved, which has been in millions of songs. It's not a special thing, but it just seemed quite apt. And I usually get like the first few lines of lyrics and melody both at once. And then I finish the melody usually first and then have to write the words. Like, there's another song I wrote when we were in India about 2 years, 18 months ago, and I wrote it straight away, and the first verse I wrote just said everything I wanted to say like that, and then now I need to write a couple more verses, and I find it much more difficult. But John gave me a handy tip once, which is once you start to write a song, try and finish it straight away while you're in the mood. And I've learned from experience, because you go back to it and then you're in a whole different state of mind and it's more difficult. Sometimes it's easier, but on the whole it's more difficult to come back to something. So I do now try and finish them straight away.
This is the first time that one of your songs has been released as a Beatles single, isn't it?
As an A-side, yeah.
As an A-side.
They blessed me with a couple of B-sides in the past, but this is the first time I've had an A-side. Big deal, eh?
Yes. And Here Comes the Sun. That sounds a more obvious one. You must have been inspired by the sun, but where were you?
The story behind that was, like Paul's song, You Never Give Me Your Money, I think, because whatever you're involved with rubs off and influences you. You Never Give Me Your Money was, I think, during all these business things that we had to go through to sort out the past. So it came out in Paul's song.
Was that written as a sort of dig, or was it written
No,
as
I don't think so. I think it's just written as that's what it is, that's what we are experiencing, Paul in particular. But Here Comes the Sun was the same period. We had meetings and meetings and all this, bankers and, lawyers and all sorts of things and contracts and shares. And it was really awful because it's not the sort of thing we enjoy. And one day I didn't come into the office. I just it was like sagging off school. And I went to a friend's house in the country and it was just sunny and it was all just the release of the tension that had been building up on me, and it was just really nice sunny day, and I picked up the guitar, which was the first time I'd played the guitar for a couple of weeks because I'd been so busy, and the first thing that came out was that song. It just came, and I finished it later when I was on holiday in Sardinia.
What was your own personal response to the Abbey Road album? How did you feel it comparing it with previous albums?
I thought it was quite nice. On the whole, I think it's a pretty good album.
What are your own personal favourites? Which ones that
I
you
like,
really do like?
I like, my favourite one is, I think, Because.
Oh, yes.
And just because I like three-part harmony. We've never done something like that for years, I think, since a B-side. When you were red tonight, remember what I said tonight? So I like that. I like, I don't know, I like lots of them. I like Never Give Me Your Money and Golden Slumbers and things.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Paul always writes nice melodies. In fact, I don't know where he finds them half the time. It's amazing for doing that. I like Ringo's song because, I mean, most people say, oh, well, it's Ringo or, haha, or something, but it's great that Ringo should do it. Why shouldn't he do it? And it's just like a country and western tune anyway, and it's happy tune and it's all that. And I like what he's saying about rest our head on the seabed and all that. We could be warm beneath the storm.
I think the little kids are going to love that.
Well, yeah, maybe some big kids like it. I've heard a few people already who are big kids saying that it's their favourite track on the album. So, you can't, what one person may dislike certain things, somebody else likes it, which makes it difficult doing albums because we're all influenced by sort of different things, and the Beatles has always been sort of a lot of different music. It's never been one sort of bag.
Would you like to see the Beatles performing on stage live again?
I don't know. I wouldn't mind playing, I like playing the guitar with people and singing a few songs and stuff. But I don't know as to going on clubs and things like that.
Yes. You can't split, can you?
No. Well, I think it's mental. It's a mental concept. But to physically or spiritually split is impossible. Well, maybe not physically. I mean, spiritually, it's, you can't split.
No. So that doesn't bother you?
because if you're listening, I'm the walrus too. All I'm doing, I'm acting out the part of Beatle George, and, you know, we're all acting out our own parts. And, you know, the world is a stage and the people are the players. Shakespeare said that. And he's right, you know.
Do you expect another part later?
Oh, many parts. Yes, whichever.
Is that why you've come to terms with it?
Yes, because you just do whatever you can do. I mean, even if it's been a Beatle for the rest of my life, it's still only a temporary thing. And, I mean, really all we did was get born and live so many years, and
labelled.
And this is what happened. You know, I got born seemingly to become Beatle George, but it doesn't really matter who you are or what you are, because that's only a temporary sort of tag for a limited sort of period of years.
Do you enjoy it now?
It's the same as any job, you know. It's up and down, you know. Life is up and down all the time. And maybe for us it goes up higher, but it comes down lower. Relativity. So, you know, if we have a bad time, it's really bad. And if we have a good time, maybe it's really good. But it's only the same, you know. It's relativity. So it's the same law operates for everybody.
Yes.
But they only, you know, it's the same thing. Like, they see showbiz, that thing, and all they think of is, oh, all that money you've got, and you've got a big house and car and all that sort of thing. But the problems that come along with that, you know, are incredible. And I can tell you, everything material that we have, every £100 we've earned, we've got £100 worth of problems to balance it.
Yes.
It's very ironical in a way, because, you know, we've all got maybe a big house and a car and an office, but to actually get the money that you've earned is virtually impossible. It's like illegal to earn money. Well, not to earn it, it's illegal to keep the money you earn.
How much are you seeing at the moment of the other Beatles?
Well, George was on the session, for instance, Karma, so and Ringo's away, and Paul's, I don't know what he's doing here. At the moment, I haven't a clue.
Where did you last see him?
Before Toronto. When was it? I'll see him this week, actually.
Yeah. Well, so,
if you're listening, I'm coming round.
What about the actual Beatle fans over there? How do they compare? Do they idolise you as much as they do in places where they really do?
Oh, yeah. Canada's a strong Beatle hold. I mean, because of the Commonwealth Association, everything, they hold us a bit special over there.
So you've got a bit of power over there in a way as well, as influence.
Well, I suppose so. I want any power I have from the Beatle thing is an abstract power, you know. I mean, a lot of Beatle fans have written to me saying, what are you doing and that? And some of them write back later saying, oh, I understand what you're doing now, so, you know, good luck. So it's not like everything a Beatle says goes with every Beatle fan that ever was, you know. They grow up, they change. We've got a new following. I know just by seeing my son and Yoko's daughter, you know, they're listening to the early Beatles stuff like the kids did in the early days. I couldn't believe it, 5-year-olds listening to it. So there's like a whole change going on with the Beatle people, whoever they are.
Well, you've obviously got a pretty responsible attitude towards the power that you have got. But does it worry you, or do you always feel that you know exactly what you want to do?
I don't worry about it, you know, because if I'm depressed, I don't have the ability to use or influence anybody, you know, if I'm not in a good state of mind. And when I'm in a good state of mind, I use whatever power I have carefully.
What about live appearances? They're rarer and rarer, aren't they, really? What are your plans?
I don't know. I've done more live appearances in the last year than I did in the last 5.
Yeah.
I've appeared, last year I appeared live about 5 times altogether, probably.
Yeah, but what about the Beatles altogether as a group?
As soon as they're ready, you know, we had half the Beatles on again at the Lyceum Ballroom. That was George and me, but we also had Delaney and Bonnie and millions of people. 17-piece band we had on. It was a great experience. It should be like that, you know. If we were doing that and all the Beatles wanted to come, it'd be great. Then there'd be no great thing about, oh, the Beatles are coming back on stage, and like they expect sort of Buddha and Mohammed to come on and play. I keep saying that, but that's the fear the Beatles have, you know, that's including me as a Beatle, about performing. It's so much expected of us, you know. But you see, George has been on tour with Bonnie and Delaney playing, and I've been drifting around playing. It's just playing isn't the hang-up. It's going on as the Beatles that's the problem for us.
Well, this, I think, was one of the problems with Abbey Road. I think a great deal is always expected of you.
Yes.
Were you disappointed with the critical reaction? I mean, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't as ecstatic as it was.
Honestly, I don't remember it, you know, because Abbey Road, for me, as always with all the albums, I like some of the tracks and I don't like others of the tracks. And it's always been the same. I've never been a knocked-out Beatle fan by any of our albums. You know, I like some of the work we do and some of it I don't. And Abbey Road was a competent album. I don't think it was any more than that, or any less.
Yeah, it was certainly competent,
Yeah.
You say you're still a rock and roller at heart, and that you're turning back in this direction a bit now.
I never left it.
You never left it?
Trace John Lennon songs,
Yeah.
you know, if you care to. And you find I never left it, you know.
No, I know, it's true, actually. Yeah. But do you ever feel at all nostalgic for the early days of the Beatles?
You just get any musician over 26 sitting around with me, and it's all about, remember, Yoko knows more about rock and roll than she does about present-day pop, because I talk about it so much. There's a great Zappa album, Reuben and the Jets, and he does all this parody of the 50s rock and roll, but it's beautifully done, and he means it as well as making a parody of it. And there's a beautiful sleeve note saying about they're just four old rock and rollers in their rock and roll suits talking about rock and roll in the studio all the time, in between every Beatles session. I mean, in fact, probably on the Get Back album, there'll be one or two bits. Whenever there's a break, we go into rock and roll, you know, the old Good Golly Miss Molly, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And that's our era. We're already old folks talking about those were the days, and that's what we're like already. And I want records to be like newspapers, you know. I'd like it to come out at least once a week or twice a week or something like that. And with this song, we wrote it in the morning, recorded it and remixed it and got it out in a week here on the States, which is pretty fast moving. I want it to be like that, you know. I want to be able to put it out as it happens, you know. I write songs about what's happening to me that moment, and I want it to be out that moment, and I don't care what name goes on it, you know.
Are you, in fact, going your own way with Yoko these days? Because that is the impression one has.
Well, each Beatle's
thing.
doing his own thing at the moment, you know, and it's like it could be a rebirth or a death, you know, and we'll see what it is, you know, but it'd probably be a rebirth, you know, for all of us.
When do you in fact plan to, I asked you this question the other day, when do you in fact plan to record with the Beatles again?
At the moment there is no plan whatsoever, you know, and we have this film and album in the can, and until that's sorted out, there won't be any plans, you know. And I plan to make an album with Yoko, with Phil Spector, in about 2 weeks, you know, so that's my plan. I heard Paul was planning to do an LP too, you know.
Yes. What does this in fact mean, John?
It means you get more space on the record, you know.
So, do you think it's unlikely that you will be making another track with the Beatles? Recording
no, I don't
again
think.
with the Beatles?
I can't. See, you can't pin me down because I haven't got. It's completely open whether we do it or not, you know.
His whole life is.
My life is like that. Whether I make another Plastic Ono album or Lennon album or anything is open, you know. I don't like to prejudge it. And I've no idea if the Beatles will work together again or not, you know. I never did have.
No.
You know, it was always open, you know. If somebody didn't feel like it, that's it, you know. And maybe if one of us starts it off, the others will all come round and make an album, you know. It's just like that at the moment. To open the Beatles up, you know.
It's the first time this situation has ever arisen, isn't it?
Well, let's say
Normally
before Sgt. Pepper there was 9 months of nothing. So in between our albums now, there's a lot of stuff going on. That's all. There might be 9 months or a year before we decide that we're interested enough to produce that thing called the Beatles album, you know. But there was 9 months before Sgt. Pepper, and it's only been since September since we worked together.
Yes. Do you care about making another one?
Yeah, I think Beatles is a good communication media, you know, and I wouldn't destroy it out of hand or dissolve it out of hand, you know. So that's what I think about Beatles. You know.
The main reason I asked you that, John, is because there have been so many rumours going around about, you know, Beatles having had rows and there being friction, that you're not talking to Paul and Paul's not talking to you.
Well,
and
I wrote
this is the end of the Beatles.
I wrote all the Beatles about 20 postcards from Denmark to keep in touch with them. I didn't talk on I think I talked to George on the phone only about some business or something. But I was on holiday. I just sent them love, you know, through postcards, and we communicate like that, you know, when we're not actually physically together.
Why do you think rumours like this start?
Because there was a lot of tension around the Alan Klein coming in days and all that, you know, and the ATV thing going on, you know. The Beatles were under a lot of pressure, and we had to be together all the time, fighting and arguing and listening to all these different business things. And so we're taking a break from each other like we always did after a tour ending up. That business thing was like a heavy tour, you know. In it, we made Get Back and Abbey Road and a couple of singles, and under a great strain, you know, of doing that business. And so now we're just taking a break from each other, you know.
What sort of immediate plans are there, George, for anything new?
All the time, it doesn't stop. You know, there's, as far as the Beatles go, we've got the Let It Be album, which should be out in about 3 or 4 weeks. It's been held up really because the best way to do it was to put out the film. We're trying to put the film out in about 40 different cities throughout the world all at once, rather than sort of put on a premiere in New York and then let the critics say, oh, well, we think it's this and we think it's that.
And what's the Beatle film going to be about?
The Beatle film is just pure documentary of us slogging and working.
On Let It Be?
Yeah, on the album. But it was so nice in a way it was very informative. It's not really nice for me. I can't stand seeing it. But for other people who don't know what we're really about, who like to go in and see our warts, then it's very good. Then there's also, Ringo's just completed a great album. I think it's called, what's it called, Ringo?
Ringo Sings Ringo?
No, it was going to be called Ringo Stardust, but it's not. Sentimental Journey, it's called. And it's all the songs that Elsie and Harry and his uncle and aunties, that's his father and mother, they used to all sing and have parties all the time. So he sings all these old songs with the sort of old arrangements. He doesn't do a sort of modern arrangement. Yeah. And it's really a nice album. Then John's doing an album, a Plastic Ono album. I think he's going to do that with Phil Spector. And I think Paul's doing an album which is, I should imagine, like, if you remember Eddie Cochran did a couple of tracks, like Come On Everybody, where he played bass, drums, guitar and sang. So Paul's doing this sort of thing where he's going to play all the instruments himself, which is nice. So in a way, it's a great relief for us all to be able to work separately at the same time. And so maybe if I get a chance, I'd like to do an album as well, just to get rid of a lot of songs. So maybe I'll
just
do
a George album.
A George album. And so I'll try and get that together sometime during this summer. And I expect by that time we should be ready to do a new Beatle album.
Well, that's all very, very lovely, in fact. But can we do a little bit just more specifically on what's going to be on Let It Be? Is it all finished?
Yeah, well, that was done... Originally, we were rehearsing. We were rehearsing the songs that we were planning to do in some big TV spectacular or something. We had a vague idea of doing a TV show, and we decided to film it on 16mm to maybe use as a documentary. And the record happened to be the rehearsal of the record, and the film happened to be, rather than a TV show, it happened to be the film of us making the record. So it's very rough in a way. You know, it's nice because, again, you can see our warts. You can hear us talking, you can hear us playing out of tune, and you can hear us coughing and all those things. It's the complete opposite to the sort of clinical approach that we've normally had. You know, studio recording, everything, the balance, everything's just right, and, you know, the silence in between each track. This is really not like that. But there's nice songs, really good songs on it. Let It Be, of course, and Don't Let Me Down. I think they're the two that you people will have heard of.
Are there any more George Harrison somethings, or...?
There's, no, there's no somethings. There's one song which is a 12-bar, because I've never written a 12-bar before, and that's called For You Blue, and it's just a very simple foot-tapping 12-bar. Also, we put on Across the Universe, which was a song on the album for the charity album. It's a really nice song of John's.
What else have John and Paul done for this particular album?
that might be worth a listen?
There's a great song of John's called Dig a Pony, and it's, you know, John type lyrics. You can syndicate any boat you row and various other things like that. There's a nice song of Paul's which is one of those that probably hundreds of people will record. Somebody's going to have a hit with it. It's called The Long and Winding Road. It's like one of those ballad, standard sort of things.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole album, you see, is very spontaneous because all we were doing was rehearsing. So in between different numbers, we suddenly go into Fats Domino tunes or, you know, old Rock Around the Clock and type things, you know, however we felt at the time. So there's little bits and pieces, like there's a song called Can You Dig It, which is just really made up on the spot with John shouting, John being John, again shouting about the various things. And it's really, you just have to listen to it and make up your own mind. But I think it's very nice. It's a good change, you know, after all those Sgt. Peppers. My attitude when we decided to use it as an album was that, well, people may think we're not trying, you know, because it's really like a demo record. But on the other hand, it's worth so much more than those other records because you can actually get to know us a bit more. You know, it's a bit more human than the average studio recording.
What he thinks of John Lennon's activities.
I think he's very brave and very strong. And he's doing a good job, you know.
But where he's trying to make it for the world, you know, I'm trying to make it at home.
Do you approve of everything he does?
Yes.
He could jump off the Eiffel Tower and I'd approve it. Because he feels strongly for everything he does usually. And that's the only way to do anything. He's Mr. Soul Man anyway, you know. He's the soul brother.
Because I think a lot of people, you know, they identify, don't they? I know that people hate people changing, don't they? But
oh yeah.
And they did identify you as having long hair.
Yeah, but you know, you can't live with what they identify you by.
No.
I mean, I think that's like 2 years ago we had bad publicity, purely because we weren't sticking to the image that everyone had of us, you know. And it took them a while to get used to the change, you know, because they suddenly had to realise that we weren't four happy little mop tops leaping about for you, you know, doing whatever you wanted. We were doing what we wanted a bit more. And it really worried a lot of people. But it's okay now, they just think we're crazy. So we're allowed to do what we like now.
So would you say then, you know, one has the impression that the Beatles are all doing their own things and that you're all...
They are doing their own thing.
They are doing. Yes. But would you say that the Beatles are just as united as they have been or not?
I think behind each other, personally, we're united as we ever were. You know. But
on the face of it, it hasn't looked like it very much over the last few months.
No, but that's only because you read the papers, you know, and you read all those musicals saying, is it a split, isn't it a split? Where they've just got nothing else to write, you know.
Because nobody wants to split. I mean, the general public don't want to split, and Beatle fans probably don't want to split. You know? I suppose that's really why they're always
and the Beatles don't want really either. No.
Thanks very much, Ringo. Ringo Starr talking with David Wigg. Next on Freeman Heard, Mike.
Something, one of my very favourite Beatle tracks. It comes from the LP Abbey Road. It was written and sung by the very talented musician who's in the studio now, George Harrison. George, I'd like to talk to you about the Beatles and the forthcoming LP. But first, about yourself. When did you first start writing songs?
First song I ever wrote was in Bournemouth must have been about 1963. It was after our first success and we were doing weekly shows in holiday resorts. So we were in Bournemouth and I was feeling sick. In fact, I was in bed sick and the doctor was giving me some tonic. And I just thought, I'll see if I can write a song. So I wrote one and it was an awful song and it was called Don't Bother Me, which I suppose is how I felt at the time.
Did you find it very hard at first to get ideas and think of songs? And
the main difficulty was really because of Paul and John having written so many good songs
that
you're automatically compared with them, I suppose.
Well, automatically, it was difficult for me to write some sort of crummy song and expect the Beatles to record it, already having such fine material. And that was the most difficult thing. And also to do a song with the Beatles, it was always a matter of trying to do the song that you thought they'd understand quickest, or the song you could get onto the tape the quickest, so not necessarily the song you thought was the best. The last 2 years has really been good experience for me because I've been doing more producing. And in a way that's nice, because if I'm a part of the band recording, if I'm playing guitar, then you think so much just about that one part, whereas if you're producing, you can tend to withdraw from that situation and see it from as a whole. You can see like the different parts that make up the record. And so it's much nicer in a way to produce.